Hello and welcome to the 4th CMG Forum. We're now in this beautiful, beautiful city of Qufu in China's Shandong province. And in this sub-forum, which is presented to you by CGTN, we explore the innovation pathways in global green transition, which is the trending topics to talk about. And today we explore how technology, international cooperation, and a media role in helping us to build a better and sustainable future. And today we're thrilled to have 5 distinguished guests with us today. Let me introduce them to you. It's Sinisa Belian, the ambassador of Bosnia and Herzegovina to China. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Mr. Khalid Hashimi, the ambassador of Pakistan to China. Welcome. And Helga Chapler-Rouge, the founder of Schiller Institute. Welcome. Dr. Vasil Bimbai, the Director of Technology and Innovation at Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, ABU. Right. And also Mr. Abe McCoy, the founder and CEO of the Global South Media Network. Welcome to all of you to join our panel today. And I think this technology, media, and international cooperation as a global green transition is a very meaningful topic to discuss with. And I am a science and technology reporter. In the past few years, I've been covering the science and technological breakthroughs in China. So those experience and coverage teach me one thing, that it's the one thing to talk about a single breakthrough or individual technology, but it's a whole different story to talk about how to integrate this single technology into a system that has already exists. So these are two different things. So let me just started with this technology and challenges. And we have 2 ambassadors today with us. And we start with Ambassador Belian from your country perspective. What kind of technological innovation and achievements has already been adopted in your economy? And how does it work? And most importantly, what is the big challenges that face in your country?
First of all, thank you very much for kind invitation to talk about these very important topics. My country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, has made encouraging progress in adoption of green technologies that are tailored to our national needs. So in recent years, in several cities and municipalities, we have implemented different energy efficiency measures in public buildings. So we have some improvements in insulation, in modernization of heating system, in introducing monitoring energy tools and so on. So now we can see a clear result. We managed to reduce energy consumption, and we also managed to save some public funds, which now can be redirected to other local development priorities. Also, we are actively working to diversify our sources of energy by investing in solar panels, in wind farms, in small-scale hydro projects in order to reach and promote cleaner and more sustainable energy production. Of course, there are many challenges. Still, there are many challenges, especially when it comes to scaling innovation. So high costs and limitations when it comes to access to advanced technology can slow down a little bit this process. But we are very open for international cooperation, especially with our friends and partners from China. And we hope that Chinese experience in renewable energy can help us, and it is anyway in line with our development goals.
Right, thank you so much. Mr. Hashimi, so what about Pakistan's situation where this technological innovation has already been applied in your country, and what is challenges that have been facing your countries right now?
I think as 4th largest developing country in the world with a population of nearly 250 million, one of the top 10 climate affected and vulnerable countries with a very little carbon footprint. So we are acutely conscious of what needs to take place. So it's a combination of domestic actions, but also an enabling international environment that is also needed, because to mount meaningful countermeasures to combat climate change, you need a series of steps on the policy side and on the implementation side. So I won't go into those steps, but I think we have achieved, but that's a modest achievement, I would say, because we have to navigate several things at the same time. While innovation, science and technology, leveraging innovation or deploying technology is certainly desirable, but it's also the art of the possible. So access to technology, access to finance, also skilling people, reskilling people, the workforce. And these are all part of the broader innovation strategy. So we have deployed, as the Ambassador of Bosnia has mentioned, we have also deployed a range of measures, energy conservation, also reducing carbon footprint by introducing electric vehicles, also by mainstreaming almost solar panels, wind farms, and so on and so forth. We have, different policy frameworks as well. But where we are struggling is, I think, that's the external dimension of it. Both we cannot, on our own, I think, prevent the pace of climate change because it's a huge phenomena affecting not only us but others. But in terms of putting together measures, in terms of introducing technologies and other measures at scale so that you can make a meaningful contribution, that requires a sufficient level of, for example, Pakistan's nationally determined contribution, according to that, between 2020 to 2025, we require $101 billion. But that money is not available, either through domestic resources. We have a huge population. As a developing country, we have our own needs. So balancing that, green transition and making sure that you are energy secure and also environmentally sustainable while also grow economically, it's quite a challenge for development.
Yeah, the balancing is the big challenge. I think since both countries have some similar situations, have some similar challenges. Now, Ms. Zablarouche, so the world's first carbon tariff policy, which is the EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, is set to be officially implemented in January 2026. So this is specific policy. But many countries are concerned about this tariff policies, and they will concerned about this. It may affect the global green transition and probably the global carbon neutrality goals. The achievements of that goals. So what is your view on this issue?
Well, I think the concerns of many countries are very justified because I think that particular mechanism is not very advantageous for the developing countries. As a matter of fact, the Global South is concerned that it puts them as a big disadvantage, but ironically, it is also not to the advantage of the industries in Germany and other countries of Europe, because it's really a scam. It aids the financial sector, but not the industrial sector. And there are many people who are very critical of the mechanism because, in the past, Europe did a lot of things which favored the speculative side of things and not the industrial side. This is why we have in Europe right now a major economic crisis, and I think the worst affected country is Germany. And I think that there is probably going to be a rethinking about these matters in a serious fashion.
Okay. So do you think there will be is this another way of protectionism?
Well, I mean, right now Germany is in a free fall. The economy is in a free fall. That is mainly due to the loss of cheap gas from Russia, but also I think Germany should learn from China, because China did it right by having a mix. You have renewable energy, solar, wind, but you also invest in the fourth generation of fission, very advanced. And China has the goal to have fusion power
That's
ready by 34 or 35. And, you know, Germany used to be a country of excellence in science and technology, but I think we have lost a little bit the way.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, I think China, we left nuclear energy without having a replacement. And I have been asked by many people all over the world, what is Germany? Do you have a secret trick? You know, how do you replace this? But we don't. And I think we should look at China and look at the mix, you know, of going back to nuclear energy and make a renewed effort in research and development of fusion energy. That would be my estimate.
Thank you for your insight. Dr. Binbar, so you're from the ABU, and we're all working in the media industry. And talking about media, when we talk about media and a green transition, we usually think about, okay, media can make the production, right? We can produce a show, we can produce a program to let more people to know about the green concept. But also, media is also an industry. Yeah. We're the big industry, we enroll a lot of people. We have carbon emission too, right?
Of course.
So as a industry, so what do you think, in addition to the productions, to the shows that we can deliver those messages to our audiences, what else can the media do in this, the process of green transition?
Of course, in short words, I can say that embracing new technologies, which is greener and less carbon-free footprint, and reduces the energy consumption. This is obvious, and transformation from analog to digital is one part of it. When, for example, you have an analog radio network all over the countries, and if you switch off analog and go with digital, no matter which standard you use, DRM or DAB or whatever it is going to be at least 70% reduction of the power consumption of the thing. And it's valid for every other technology that you are using, actually. And current nowadays technologies, even including AI, reducing workflows, time that needs to be spent to these works to be done, and reducing manpower, reducing cabling, and going more and more technology, advanced technologies, is always helping you to get greener broadcasting. But as you said, when I compare it, we are industry as well, but our proportion of the contribution for this global environmental hazard is just fraction of it. But it is important. Why? Because you cannot teach people, try to increase awareness while you are not practicing whatever you are saying. So that's why this is crucial, and we always encourage our broadcasters to change the mindset. Crucial point, maybe I can say this sentence finally. This is about what we are trying to achieve, is not make them proud of one particular project is done by success. Make them change mindsets, people and their mindsets, broadcasters' mindset, to whatever you are doing, practically all the projects, all the innovations, all the refurbishment, everything, you should think and consider in line with the green goals. So this is our perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Binbar. We have another panelist from the media too, Ms. McCoy. So when we were talking about climate change, there's a lot of global negotiations. So what is the biggest obstacle to international cooperation on the green transition, and how can the media help to break through those barriers?
I'm glad you're raising the issue about the role of the media in society, basically. From my standpoint, I think in terms of international relations, if all of us want to contribute towards the UN objective of preservation of the environment, the climate change obligations to which all nations are supposed to respect and uphold, you need a global governance system that not only is it fair in the manner in which it goes about their business, but all the citizens of the world have to see that it is fair. As soon as, in particular, the global South nations, the developing nations, believe, and quite justifiably so, that the West or the global North believe that the rules-based world order has got only rules for themselves, and the developing nations or the global South have got their own rules, then immediately you have a problem. Now, an example about the country where I come from, which is South Africa, we have an abundant production of coal. And at the same time, we are interested as a nation to contribute towards transition to the green energy. However, the question that we seem to be grappling with is, what do we then do with our coal? Because we have this coal, which is a natural endowment. Mm-hmm. Now, our colleagues in the West, and not all of them, but most of them, are putting pressure on nations like South Africa to say we must do away with our coal. And they're very happy to say they will help fund green transition. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you look, and I'm glad that my colleague was talking about the free fall of the German economy as an example. Well, unfortunately, in the world right now, we are faced with a phenomenon of the free fall of the principles of the UN Charter, which is multilateralism. There are different strokes for different folks around the world. Germany right now, because and other European nations, but in particular Germany as an example, are going back to coal. At the same time that they are telling South Africa and the other nations of the global South to say, stop. Mm-hmm. So this is the double speak that us in the global South have become accustomed to, but we have thought this was yesterday's thing during the back years, but unfortunately it is happening in a different format. Mm-hmm. So the developing nations, and we must never forget in terms of geopolitics, are themselves struggling for reasons not necessarily of their own making. The global South is faced with imported problems. You can look at the DRC situation for an example. What's going in there, and this is a nation in Africa with the most natural minerals. And when you look at the foreign players in the DRC, majority of them are from the West. Mm-hmm. And they are, and this is exactly what I'm saying, that for Africa and the rest of the global South, our problems, unfortunately, are not homemade. They are imported. They come from elsewhere. Yeah. And we all know where they come from. And until the world at the level of the UN Charter start to adhere to the rules for everybody, not rules for the global North and other rules for the global South, then we will never have a common consensus.
Okay, it seems the pathway is still a long way to go, right? Let's get back to this, the country's perspective. Now, Ambassador Hashimi, so you've been talking about, let's talk about Pakistan. So the Pakistan is making continuously progress towards the green. And we have seen a significant increase of the solar power generation capacity in 2024. And we have some more figures, like your country is trying to increase the share of renewable energy and power generation to 60% by 2030. So do you want to elaborate how is your plans to do that? Because we have been talking too much about this, that there's a huge cost to do that. And there's the huge benefits to the green. So how to balance this, the cost and benefits, and how to make that happen?
Yes, as I said, there are plenty of measures that we have taken in terms of making green transition, reducing our carbon footprint, and also promote, environmental protection, and reduce hazards that arise from the changing climate. So in that respect, you mentioned some of those measures. So it's a work in progress. I want to highlight again I think it's not even a dilemma, it's a trilemma for countries like us. First is, as I again mentioned, we have to make sure that we grow and we grow fast economically, because to have a population of 250 million, and out of which 60% of that population is under 30 years of age. So we need, every year, we need close to more than 1 million jobs. So how do you create jobs in a way that is environmentally sustainable? The second part is, how do you pursue policies, economic policies, which are environmentally sustainable, and you still pursue the green transition? So I think it's easier said than done on paper or on, when you speak on the occasion. But the practical aspects, you need to have a lot of finance, a lot of technology. And technology is not available. It is expensive.
Yes.
But even when you have technology, you need to train people who can then, you need thousands of workers in the construction industry, in the transport industry.
Yes.
So that's the second part of the dilemma. And the third is, how do you make sure that you are energy secure? So you make the transition.
Yes.
You can talk all about renewable energy, and you cut down, as is the dilemma faced by Germany and other countries. You make the switch. Mm-hmm. But there are not, plans or measures that you take are not sustainable in themselves. So you make the transition, you leave the coal in the case of South Africa. What do you do? What is the alternative? And is that alternative itself sustainable or feasible? So I think these are the dilemmas that we face. So there's, to the larger debate internationally, and I will come to that. Of course, we are determined and we are doing everything that we can domestically. But there is, every day there is, you have to juggle. Yes. In between these three objectives. Right. But internationally also, I think there is a lot of, the momentum has slowed down on the achievement of the climate goals. People are talking about climate justice. There's a lot of talk in the media, but the actual progress towards securing climate justice is very far away. Similarly, I mean, the kind of finance that is required to make the energy transition, that has now run into billions of dollars. There is not much money available. And finally, also, if you look at the achievement of the UN Sustainable Goals, the number of, the amount has increased, but the progress has slowed down. The amount of, money that is required to achieve those 2030 sustainable development goals has now exceeded $4 trillion. But the money available, we are short of nearly 70+% of the money or finance that is needed to achieve those goals.
Yes.
So, but I think our last point is, I think what China is doing is very inspiring, domestically and also internationally. It is producing products, it is producing technologies, it is producing many other instruments which are affordable and which are available for at scale. Look at the the electric vehicles, whether they are four-wheelers or two-wheelers or three-wheelers. They are available at a cost which can be affordable for a number of developing countries. So that's the kind of approach and that's the kind of model that developing countries can emulate, but it would take a lot of time, because China is an excellent example of international cooperation, where China absorbed technology over a period of time and then started innovating, and now it is producing technologies at scale.
Yes, this is the mass production in China has been, I think that was because I've been covering a lot of story like that, it's because of this mass production here in China. They can lower the cost of like solar panels or any of the instruments or machineries, and they can better help the other countries, and also helping China in this transition of the green path. And Mr. Balian, so what is your point of view on this balancing stuff? We've talked a lot about this, the balancing, how to balance the cost and also the long-term goals of green transition in your country.
That is a very important question, and a question that many countries, especially countries with smaller economies like Bosnia and Herzegovina, are actively working to address. It is, according to taking into consideration our experience, we can say that the key lies in shifting perspectives. So we must see green transition as not as a short-term financial burden, but as a long-term investment in energy security, in public health, in environmental protection, in sustainable development. It is true that some costs, for example, in renewable energy infrastructure or green transportations are high, but benefits at the same time are also high. And these kind of projects can provide many green jobs across multiple sectors. So we have one very good example from Bosnia and Herzegovina, city of Banja Luka in Republic of Srpska. So they switched. In fact, they modernized their heating system and they switched from fossil fuels to biomass, and they also upgraded their outdated equipment, their outdated infrastructure. So this project helped to reduce around 70,000 tons of CO2 emissions annually, and also for city saved millions in energy costs. So nowadays there are several similar ongoing projects in Bosnia and Herzegovina which are supported by international financial institutions, and for us international cooperation is very essential, especially international cooperation with China, particularly through Belt and Roads Green Development Program, because we see that platform as a very valuable in terms of green energy, joint research, but also technology transfer.
That's right. Thanks for your insight, and I appreciate your case. I think it's meaningful to share with all of us. And Mr. Chapler-Rouge, so what is your point of view on this balancing?
Well, obviously, the most intelligent is to invest in those things which are most efficient. And you know, while it looks like solar and wind are easily available and not so cost intensive, in reality it is not like that, because there is, in energy, you have to consider the notion of energy flux density. And the higher you go in the energy flux density, the higher is the productivity of the production process in general in the entire industry. And for example, Germany is a very advanced economy, and therefore if you go to very low energy flux densities, which is only solar and energy and wind, you cannot maintain the high productivity of the economy. Therefore, you know, there is a big rethinking in Germany among industrial layers that it was a big mistake to go out of nuclear energy, because you know the question is how do you correlate the amount of energy produced worldwide with the need of the population. And the low energy flux density of solar and wind only corresponds to a population density area of about 1, maybe 2 billion people. But if you want to maintain a population of 8 billion or even 10 billion or 20 billion, which would be easily possible, you absolutely need to invest in the high energy flux density areas, which is fourth generation, inherently safe fission energy. And that speaks no argument against fourth generation, because, or the thorium cycle, for example, these are energy sources which are absolutely safe. They are environmentally friendly. They have no CO2 emission worth talking about. And therefore, I think it is extremely good. I mean, look, if you look at the exports of China from of energy products to the global south, you know, China is very willing to share its most advanced technologies with Africa. This is why Africa thinks that China is the friend of Africa. You know, and Churchill was completely wrong when he said, you know, their only interest. I think the relationship between China and Africa is the proof that there can be true friendship between nations if you follow the principle of win-win cooperation, that both sides profit. So if you look at the export of China to developing countries of the global south, it's a mix, you know, but it is also advanced energy sources like fission. While the European Union, they preach water and they drink wine. You know, you were mentioning this already, that, you know, they're using coal, but they're telling the Africans they should not use coal. And that shows you the hypocrisy, you know, that in a certain sense, there is right now a huge struggle going on in the world, which I think China is one of the leaders of, which is the effort by the countries of the global majority to overcome 500 years of colonialism for good by no longer being exporters of raw materials, but to develop the production chain in their own country. And, you know, there are obviously some people who don't like that, and they would like to maintain the neo-colonial forms of which, I mean, this was already, we have now the 70th anniversary of the Bandung Conference. And at that time, in 1955, President Sukarno and Zhou Enlai and Nehru, they were warning that colonialism exists in its modern form through the trade relations, through the, you know, access to credit and so forth. So now we are in this historic epochal change, you know, where the countries of the global majority want to overcome that, in large part possible through the rise of China and through the development of the BRICS countries. So I think that, you know, if you compare the exports of all the BRICS countries, you know, I mean, Russia, for example, also exports nuclear technology, while the EU only wants to have sustainable technology. And, you know, there are many people in the global south who have come to the conclusion that sustainable technology is just another word for no technology. You know, or, you know, to dig your own fountain, and that is what you should be happy with. But I think what Africa needs, in Africa, 600 million people have not yet electricity. So how do you do that in a crash program? The Europeans, if they are so concerned about the migrants coming from Africa, they should help Africa to access electricity, you know, with the help of turbines and other easily available things. But at the same time, start nuclear plants now. You know, and I think that the question of which sort of, you know, if there is a systemic rivalry, I don't want to put it this way because I think it's a stupid way of looking at things. I think one should look at a completely different way of relations among nations. But if there is a systemic rivalry, I think that system, which is beneficial for its partners, will win out. And I think that goes to China. So Leibniz was correct. You know, Leibniz in the 17th century already said, if somebody should judge the wisdom of a people rather than the beauty of women, the golden apple would go to China. And I think that is absolutely the case.
Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Bimba, let's talk about technology. You're the technology professional, you're also a media professional, so you've been access to many, most of cutting-edge technologies every day. So, and also they're including some of those technology we've been talking very often today, like the artificial intelligence, big data, clouding things. Which technology that you've been, do you think will be the first one to have a large-scale applications to significantly improving this global transition?
One simple answer and correct answer from my perspective is the highly likely AI. Artificial intelligence, because what AI is doing, although we are the new initial phase of a new era, which is going to be dominated likely AI, but even this initial phase, what AI is practically doing is increasing efficiency, whatever we have, existing workflows. First of all, we have existing workflows. When AI involved, they always became more and more efficient and in drastic rates. I mean, I'm talking about 60%, 70% more efficient, and reducing every kind of resources that need to be achieved from starting to end of the workflow. So in that perspective, actually, AI is promising, not like cloud computing or big data, because it is going to be managed by the AI again. So, but in that, let me add one point. I strongly agree with one point from my fellow panelist has pointed out. Actually, it is that there is this, we should be careful about thinking to go more sustainable and renewable energies after that, because energy flux density is an issue. And when, what I said in the beginning, when you get more and more advanced technologies, you always became more and more efficient and it's more greener. But when you check, as highlighted already, when you think about going wind, going solar panel, it is not efficient for the advancements, because while you are advancing, although your efficiency is increasing in the rates, but you need more and more and more power to these advanced civilizations to go on. Daily life needs more and more advanced power. Even AI itself, people start talking about a serious discussion about what will be the energy consumption of this AI machinery in the background. So the data centers and the processors and everything, will we be really able to compensate these power needs, and how we can even supply this power to them? This became difficult, but even AI will solve this efficiency problem for a while. But we should understand that this is dynamic, and we should understand that power need will increase. And we should understand that we start with mechanical motion, to using mechanical motions, and then sunlight directly, and then chemical bonds, and now nuclear. We go to nucleus. And of course, when it starts, always problematic. But when it comes advanced, when you invent science and technology, this should be the only path and only beacon that we should follow. We end up with very, very inefficient or drastically hazardful nuclear energy, to which China is now leading, obviously, to fusion energy and more and beyond. So we should follow that path. Returning back is not the solution, but we should work and use technology and the advancements to get more and more and more efficient ways. Otherwise, it won't work. It's kind of an infinite loop. It could be an infinite loop and paradox. And let me add, maybe not too fully technological, but important point for my dear panelists already highlighted most of them. Well, there is this unfairness in the global world, as we are aware of. Because when we compare whoever contributing much this hazard that we are doing, and whoever affected by that, and whoever we are expecting and forcing them to obey some rules, it's not obviously fair. When we need to focus on that, maybe, I don't know how, it is not about technology, but definitely this is an issue.
Dr. Bimba, you've been talking a lot of the positive story in technology advancement. But Mr. McCoy, when we're journalists, when we cover the stories, not all of the stories are positive. Some stories are negative, including when we were talking about green development, there are a lot of story about the risk of greenwashing in green transition. So how should the media do, and government, maybe we can, do you think we can establish some sort of investigative frameworks to expose those kind of behaviors, and to make sure to recognize those companies that are truly drive this change?
I think, and I hear your point about the media, and it goes back to the role of the media in society, really. But if the media would have been today what it was founded to be, we'd be talking a different story. We'd be talking about a media that is truly effective and that honestly contributes towards the positive development of humanity. But unfortunately, everybody knows you can't stand in all honesty and say that's the role of the media in today's world. But I think with this green transition and its challenges and climate change, we will also never come to an amicable conclusion or desirable outcomes for as long as we do not effect changes and reforms in the global governance systems, starting, for an example, in my opinion, with the UN Security Council, where decisions that are binding in international law are taken but can be annulled by only one member. Not in the interest of humanity, but in the narrow interest of their own foreign policy. Mm-hmm. And let me show you, and this is the thing that makes me not actually to like diplomacy that much. Because the art of diplomacy is basically that what we see is not what we say, or you say it differently. I think until the world reaches a stage where we can be honest and call a spade, so that everybody understands exactly where we are, we will continue to have these kind of challenges. An example of how this world, for me, has digressed, has gone backwards. The example that exists today, my dear friend, is exactly what's happening in Palestine. The quietness of the world, of Europe, of the West in particular, pretending that nothing is happening. That alone, and it's something that pains me very much. It shows you lack of international cooperation, the absence of honesty in international relations. So we come down to challenges that affects you and me, whether rich or poor, which is about emissions. And my dear friend here is making a very valid point to say some of those who emit most basically affect those who do not, but are the recipients of those CO2 emissions. And where is justice in this world when countries that deem themselves to be the most powerful can actually sign in and sign out of the climate change willy-nilly without any consequences? And this again, in terms of the degraded international relations, you see it when powerful nations individually can impose sanctions that are globally effective and affect everybody outside of the UN system. Then that, for me, says that we live in a world that is truly treacherous, a world of people who are dishonest, and that's why even the value of politics in the world has gone down. Nobody trusts politicians anymore, except themselves. Okay. I don't even think politicians trust themselves, by the way, from the media point of view.
Thank you for all of our panelists today to join in this, I think it's a very meaningful and informative discussion with us. In this process of global green transition, we need innovation, we need technology, we need international cooperation, but also we recognize it is a long pathway to go. So the most important thing is that we have to turn those ambitious goals into the concrete action just from this moment. Thank you so much for watching, and this is a special edition of the 4th CMG Forum in China's Shandong Province in Qufu. On behalf of our production team, thanks for watching, and bye for now.